Meeting is now being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Being none, we will move on to public hearings and meetings. Public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Beacon Solar LLC, Mass DEP file number 151300, seeking confirmation of various wetland boundaries at 50 Florence Road, map 115, lots 2 and 5. Mallory, at our last meeting, we had received 5 quotes for peer review services, and I believe we wanted to give some time for consideration. Do you have any further comment or recommendation?
They all have the same things that I had requested, which was regulated wetland delineation review, so review of the documents provided, as well as field review based off of what was proposed. So the 140 acres, I believe one of them was a little bit different in that he had based it off, he computes it off flags, how many flags there are planned. So he said based off of what was in the filing.
Which one was that?
That was Peer Consultants, PC. And then the other items were to prepare a written report of findings, attendance of 1 meeting, and then I had asked them to include up to 3 hours of correspondence with the applicant.
Okay.
And then pretty much, and then like all of them had that other, deliverable printed materials or mileage would be separate. So in this instance, since we have a number of proposals that are intentionally the same, I would select the lowest.
But there was something about that one that was not quite the same?
The freshwater.
No, so I don't think so, because if they all had put additional services on, that this was their estimate for the price, and that additional service would be billed at the hourly rate. So that was the same on all of them, I believe.
Were any of them lump sum?
Let's see. Their estimated cost for a lump sum, basically, but have an hourly rate if we were to go over it.
Okay. So the lowest quote was 3,500,
Yes.
freshwater wetland services.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion from the commission?
I wasn't completely clear if that one included review of the INRAD document that was submitted.
Yeah, it says.
I read it a few times and I couldn't fully decide.
So regulated wetland resource areas as delineated on the current INRAD were reviewed. They were specifically asked to do that. Let's see.
I guess it's in the next task. It's just in a funny place in this one.
Will
Maybe.
prepare an ANRAD review. Yeah. So I had specifically asked that they include review of the ANRAD and to all reviewers.
All right. Are there any? Thanks, Julie. Is there any further comment, discussion from the commission? All right. Mallory, should we proceed with a motion to contract with Freshwater Wetland Services for the ANRAD peer review?
If you agree that that's the fair way to do it.
We have 5 quotes and that's the lowest,
Mhm.
so.
The applicant, did you?
I just was hoping that we could get more details about the lump sum question that was asked, because there's a difference between lump sum and time and materials not to exceed, et cetera. I understand
Mhm.
that items beyond the scope are generally straight time and materials, but we'd
Can you
like
just speak up a little bit,
clarification
just
on
because
that.
Sorry, I couldn't hear
We'd
just
like
for you.
specific clarification on which ones are actually lump sum versus not. We understand
Uh-huh.
that, time, that things beyond the scope are straight time and materials, but there is a difference between lump sum and time not to exceed.
Yeah, I don't believe that any of them were lump sum. They were estimates of a lump sum, but saying that if it includes the review of the materials, the infield based off of what you have proposed, either by acreage or by flag series.
There's usually a section of the proposal that will say how it's being billed, so that's what I'm asking about.
Right, so that's what I was.
Yeah, this is hourly.
Right, so it's hourly, but with an estimated
But
budget.
Has a copy been?
shall be inform the client as soon as practical if it becomes necessary to exceed the budget in order to perform all the proposed and additional services required. Fees shall be billed when the completion of tasks described above or is otherwise agreed upon by the client. Freshwater wetland services and shall be due on receipt. Failure to fulfill the payment terms should be caused to terminate services.
Somebody have a copy? She can-
Yeah, I
can
yeah.
share if there's no copy.
No, to give to the applicant.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can make one. Do you want a copy of just this proposal, or?
I was just curious if any of them were specifically one thing or the other, because there's just a difference in the potential amount that it could cost. It is a very big site, so we're just clarifying. I mean, they might all be the same, and it really doesn't matter, but that's our only major concern there.
Yeah, so based off of what I have reviewed is that they had all provided an estimate with any additional work GZA has actually the language lump sum in theirs, but they all
Well,
say.
that means
That's
that
different.
it won't
It is.
exceed that. It
Yeah.
means that that's what you pay and that everything that they
Right,
said is
based off of,
included.
based off of what you have
Right.
provided, so,
That is
yeah.
a different thing, so there is something in there that's a lump sum.
Right.
There are
Same for
two, the
GZA.
SWCA.
Says lumps, does it have, it has that language, where's that one?
Do you?
Fixed fee, yep.
You can accept or streak. I think we're obviously
Yeah.
interested in some certainty on the
Okay.
not to exceed threshold there.
I mean, we can certainly ask what the difference in cost is.
Yeah.
My understanding is similar, but you also had one of the proposals that's been brought up is a potential conflict of interest, just because that consultant has been working on other projects
Which
for
consultant is
this
that?
applicant.
SWCA is working on another project.
Okay.
Did they disclose that potential conflict?
No. Okay.
Okay.
The other two in here. Or the other-
Sorry to
Yeah.
So Mallory, can
keep
you?
asking so many questions.
No, that's fine,
Yeah,
that's
It is a
fine.
large
It's-
site, so I think.
Do you
we'll
want
just-
me to make
Could you make
some-
a couple copies?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate, by the way, that you're including us in this and allowing us to ask questions.
Of course.
Sometimes the lowest bid has a.
Do we know why the freshwater is that much lower than the rest? I mean, the other ones all seem pretty close.
They're all pretty close, right? So if we were to exclude if we were to cut out the high and the low, we'd be within $150 of
Right.
each other. Two at
Right, so
5,500, one at 5,650.
that's
But
not a
with a
specific-
potential conflict of interest, that leaves us with two choices at 5,500, one of which is lump sum,
And the other maybe. but
and the other maybe.
I don't have that.
So I mean, what?
Which one is the 5,500 lump?
That we know of for sure, GZA.
Okay.
Copier is slow, sorry.
No, it's totally.
Some, it's pretty bad sometimes.
Name.
Do the proposals comment on when they would start?
We'll find out in a moment.
Okay.
You know, it's a difficult time of year for that.
Yeah.
Especially with tomorrow's forecast.
Yeah, we're getting much worse than we can.
Sometimes they're backed up for other reasons, so.
True,
Yeah.
true. Right now, it's usually, ground conditions.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
No, I didn't know about it. Did you? I emailed everyone, so.
I wasn't thinking about what I was writing on.
Linda.
I can quit if you want me
No,
to resign.
nope.
Just another question while we're waiting. Are you all familiar with each of the potential vendors on this, or?
More or less.
Okay.
Some more than less, but in general, yes.
Okay.
And they're all, qualified. They all have qualified staff, for sure.
As a follow-up to that, the low one that you were discussing, is it your experience that when they submit a proposal that they're pretty on target, or?
So that is by reputation only. We've not worked with that particular consultant in the past in Easthampton.
Okay.
So, did you get a copy? Anyone else?
I think Emily's is.
Cost estimate.
She's copying all of them.
One of them's on.
Oh.
Sorry, that was that one.
I have, GDA.
Oh,
Oh,
this is.
I've looked at that
Oh,
one,
you
but-
had it already.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
but this one is definitely, well, lump sum. This is interesting, unless additional work is required, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, actually, what
Outside the
does that
scope
say?
of services. No,
Okay.
this is lump sum for this scope.
Yeah. Seen
I've never seen anyone formatted
that,
that
I
way.
know, it's weird.
Okay.
The terms and conditions.
Are
stuff in
longer
there.
than that.
Yeah, well, they haven't been updated since 2008, and they got stuff in there that,
You are correct, sir. Oh, I did a good job and they don't need to.
maybe.
Where is?
I also forget.
Hmm?
I know where she
Who's
lives
my
though.
the consultant? Who's the firm that is here for this project? Thank you.
Jinxed us. Julie.
Thank you.
Oh, I know, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
One at a time.
So, somebody was such a bond, got a hold of them, and then pen.
Oh, yeah?
Pen, no pen.
People apparently love these things.
They do, I don't get
I don't get it either. They're shiny, that's all I got.
They're shiny.
They
Yours
don't
is
write
like a
well.
greenish blue.
Yeah, we have both green and blue.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Good
Yeah,
to see
we already
that.
have.
Sorry. Okay, two down, 3 to go. Thank you all for your
Don't all get
patience.
excited at once.
Is there anything productive we could do? I mean, I don't know.
Isn't it productive?
No, because we kind of need Mallory's input.
Minute?
Yeah, minutes,
All right,
approvals.
we can do that.
Yes, I like this.
Please excuse us while we jump ahead momentarily to do something.
Motion to approve the minutes from January 28th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Check.
All right, whatever.
Slower.
Did you get that? Do we need to go back?
Yeah.
Should we cover correspondence and agent updates while we're? We can get that done quick.
Who did, you first and you second? Yeah. So,
We'll note for the record that one name on the sign-in sheet was illegible and has now resulted in a new footnote.
What was the name? Martin
I couldn't even make out an address to try to like reverse
E. Yeah.
look up. And I did with Mr.
on that one where we had like a page and a half of, like, the other towns really list everybody
I don't know.
in the audience of the minutes?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever actually seen it.
Probably not. We never usually have that many.
I think maybe our minutes need a reformat, you know. What, yeah, I don't even
Most
know
of the
what other.
committees don't really record them on the minutes that I see.
Yeah,
They may have a sign-in sheet, but then they never see it in the minutes.
We still
Yeah.
do, and then we still need. Impossible. At least we can see it in March right now.
Here we go, you know, let's copy it. It's not large.
I didn't notice those things when you look at the last read it. Unless that's looking for criticism.
Yeah, it's an estimated budget.
Yeah.
Fresh water? Is that-
Yeah, that's estimated budget. Which means,
Per hour?
Yep.
yeah, it's usually hourly.
I saw it specifically stated somewhere that it's hours.
Sit for a while.
But
$90 per senior. 55 for junior.
It's a harder cast.
Request for extension of the list of trail symbols.
We need the paper.
Okay.
yeah, proposes to provide these services on an hourly basis.
That's pretty much wide range.
I don't think I've ever seen Michael without a paper cup of hot liquid in his presence.
Maybe in the summer.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll be surprised.
I think I've had the sour gummies more than coffee, but
There's no candy.
I make a
What
motion to
happened?
go to 7-Eleven.
I think you have time.
Very upset. Not much
You don't have coffee in there, do you?
vodka.
We are being recorded, Mr. Whittemore. Not.
I don't know if there's anything in the ethics law about consuming alcohol.
Sorry.
Just saying.
'Cause that's
Not sure that's been covered.
Really?
Really?
Skip that part.
No, sobriety is not a condition.
I don't know what it is.
Did you want me to make a copy of the SWCA, or I didn't?
No, at this point, with knowing that there's a potential conflict of interest,
Mhm.
I don't think that's pertinent. Estimated fees. Okay, actual fees will be based on time and materials basis. So, I think that,
GCA.
yeah, GZA essentially at this point. So, we have one proposal, where the structure is lump sum as opposed to estimated. The estimated cost is, where'd it go, $5,500.
Mhm.
So given the reasons stated, excluding the proposals from Stockman, Freshwater, and Pier, because they are estimated and hourly and therefore have more variables, unknown variables, to the final cost, and excluding SWCA because of the, potential conflict of interest, where they are, I believe you stated, working on a project for the same applicant elsewhere. That leaves us with one proposal that does not have a conflict of interest and is lump sum. And that is $5,500. I see the gentleman nodding his head. So, with that,
GZA?
this is GZA. Is there a motion to contract with GZA for ANRAD peer review services per their January 21st, 2019 agreement?
So moved. No, I can't say that. So motioned?
Well-
So motion, yes.
May I just ask a question?
Yes.
Are we not obligated to, are we not obligated under a certain basis of award rule from something or another?
What's,
I think that there's a $10,000 limit.
Okay.
yeah, it's 10,000 for, we didn't do like a real RFP, like I told them what we were looking for, all of them the same thing, but I didn't ask specifically for lump sum or however they did their, that's the only thing that I can think of that could use the clarification.
Okay.
But otherwise, you don't have to do an RFP for.
I withdraw my question.
Thank you.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All those in favor? So moved. Mallory, shall I sign this tonight? Or is it on top of me?
I think that they have to take out their language for, their, interest payment. They usually have a.
The terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Do not agree with the city.
Okay, well, Mallory will work that out with the, is that procurement?
Alright,
Or
we'll just
something
email,
else.
I'll just, yeah,
And
I'll make
motion
sure
to-
that that's.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so I guess the next step for the applicant is to provide a check for the city to deposit in an escrow fund, or a special fund,
Mm-hmm.
specifically for these purposes, and only for these purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Mallory, how do you, okay. So we do need to allow for non-frozen soil conditions,
Mm-hmm.
which could be sooner than later, depending on the seasonal variation, but, this at least puts us in position to take that step when conditions come.
Yes.
And, we will, for lack of crystal ball, I recommend that I would entertain a motion to continue to our next regular meeting, which I anticipate would be the normal progression, so that we can continue to motion to a date and time certain without the need to re-notify abutters and re-advertise in the paper. Do you concur?
So for that, I would just send Mallory an email if we're not ready to just say, hey, please continue this again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So motion to continue to February 25th at 6 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So moved. All right.
When would you like to just mail us a check, or would you like to bring it to the next meeting?
We'll mail you one.
Okay. Okay.
And it would be super helpful for us if you could send an email that specifically says who we need to check out to.
Yeah, it's just City of Easthampton, but we can.
Yeah, well, for our billing departments and stuff, it's much faster to get them to cut a check for us if we
Okay.
can send them an
Okay.
email that says, here's the information.
Okay.
Otherwise, they're like, are you sure?
Understood.
They want to write a check for something.
Yes.
So we won't start with them, even the review of the application until we have a check.
But
Understood.
she's asking you to just, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll email you that.
Perfect.
and
Just,
we'll move
just
forward.
a
Okay.
helpful routing information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night. Okay, moving on. Public hearing, notice of intent filed by River Valley Cooperative Market, Mass DEP file number 151301 for site redevelopment of an existing car dealership and parking lot including demolition and construction of a new supermarket, parking lot, and associated site work, including photovoltaic roof panels in the parking lot, widening of Route 10 and reconfiguration of the Lyman Street intersection, and reconfiguration of the existing restaurant on site. The project also seeks a city stormwater permit. Project location is 228 Northampton Street, adjacent portions of Route 10 and Lyman Street, map 114, lots 12, 12-1, 12-2, Lyman Street right-of-way, and Route 10 right-of-way. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself for the record.
Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group.
Before we continue,
Yes, ma'am.
it has occurred to me, and I apologize if this did not occur to me sooner, that I'm a member of the co-op, and I benefit to the tune of approximately $3.50 per year in owner dividends. Do I need to recuse myself?
We have a
I don't know.
forum, even if you do, so maybe,
I'm not too
To be
concerned.
safe.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think-
concerned either.
I'm not
Better.
either, but I don't know what the
I
letter of the law would say.
would,
Yeah.
just for
Okay.
safety.
So I recuse myself. Do you want me to?
Is that noted for the minutes? I don't
Noted.
think
All right.
you can leave the table if you like,
I'll stay.
but you're not going very far. Okay.
Great.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. I presume this is the best place to set up, but let me know if not. So thanks for having us back. I don't know how far back you want me to go, but last meeting on the 28th, I've got a list of a couple of things that were outstanding that, there were questions asked. I've got some more information for you. I'm happy to talk through some of those things and see if my list compares to your list. And-
Sure, let's not rehash,
Nope,
let's.
perfect, dive
Thank
right
you.
in. Couple of the questions, one was just comments about delineating the wetland boundary. I think we're certainly happy to do that with boulders, signage,
Mhm.
markers. I think what we would suggest at this point is because there's so many, we've got a construction set moving, we've got a special permit with DOT permits
Mhm.
moving, and so rather than continually updating different departments with different plans, that yes, we will agree to do that if we can make that a condition of the permit
Mhm.
and, iron out all those details, something
Mhm.
satisfactory commission.
Yep.
Do you wanna go into the draft permit, the draft conditions of that, or do you wanna?
Well,
keep
we
going?
do have a draft condition, so maybe Mallory, do you wanna read the language that you've drafted? To that effect. I think that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I was just about to say, it looks like UMass. It is UMass. Okay. So Mallory, do you wanna, it's
Yeah.
26.
Prior to commencing any activity on site, the permittee shall install permanent monuments at no greater than 20-foot intervals along, there's a typo here, that are clearly visible and demarcate the wetlands. When using boulders as barriers, the permittee and their successors or sign shall submit a minimum of one educational sign per 100 feet of monuments to inform the public that there are wetlands in the area. This proposed signage shall be provided to the commission or agent for approval. Wetland boundary monumentation shall be completed to the satisfaction of the commission. Does that accept?
Seems reasonable.
Okay,
That's fine.
thank you, Mallory.
And then there were some questions about solar, and again, I think the major issue or concern from the standpoint of, the process is that we're under agreements, various agreements and, phases with the solar company, but a lot of the final details haven't been, exactly worked out yet. So, what I just gave to you were, the front image is what's at UMass. It's the installation that they have there, so we envision this to be something very similar to that, comparable to that. The second page is the ground-mounted array. Again, something very comparable to what we would propose, which is just this last array in the back here. The angle and, all of the final dimensions that we've worked out at the time of, construction, but.
Would it be that close to the ground, though?
They range anywhere from 3 feet to 4 feet, again, depending on what the angle of the panel needs to be relative to the slope, because there is a slope there. So it may be a more consistent, grade difference underneath. Bottom line is we've got to be able to have the ability to maintain under underneath them. So it's not gonna be so close that, you know, nobody will have access under there.
So are you, I mean, obviously these were taken right after installation.
Right.
It appears to be, because there's
Yep.
nothing growing.
Right.
Does anything actually grow in that much shade?
It does, and this is, you know, this image I think is an extreme, just again highlighting
Mhm.
is immediately after construction. I was just trying to find images
Mhm.
of panels, ground mounted panels that utilize the helical pile system.
Mhm.
Is really what it was
Mhm.
trying to demonstrate. I think these are very similar to what's at Hampshire College, that they installed on Bay Road across from Atkins.
Mhm.
There's a large solar array that they did there, which is a very similar system. I meant to get pictures of that, but that one in particular is 3 feet off the ground at the low point.
Mhm.
So, and they don't cast that so much shade that nothing grows under them, because at least I know from that array, looking at that one from experience, that there is a full, you know,
Mhm.
full meadow of growth underneath.
Okay.
And the third page again is just is sort of a typical detail from another project, but very similar to that type of system. And then the one other thing that occurred to me, just on a note regarding snow storage, is that one of the benefits of the solar canopies is that it covers virtually almost half the parking lot. So concerns about salt and some of that stuff virtually, you know, get cut in half with the solar, because none of that has the opportunity to hit the pavement. You know, there's some advantages, there's another advantage of the solar, obviously. There was a request for a sediment gauge or some way to monitor sediment in this basin in particular. So the this image here is a similar idea of something that we had done in another project. This one I just grabbed off the web, but I couldn't find the specific detail, but that was, you know, that was the idea, is that we had this little measuring stick mounted on something durable in a basin to monitor the sediment. And then lastly was just final DPW stuff. There was an O&M plan agreement, or O&M agreement, and bond. I know we had some conversations with the DPW and engineering department today about, you know, their willingness to, you know, make a condition that we finalize the details, you know, prior to construction. Same with the bond.
So we can't issue, they could
Or
close
the bond
public-
amount is gonna be determined prior to, right.
Yeah, so they could close the public hearing, but I can't issue you your stormwater permit or your order of conditions until I have a figure. So they
But-
were planning on doing that, but they said they could get it done by the end of the week.
Okay.
Well, that's well within our timeframe, so I think that seems reasonable.
And you can vote,
Yeah.
you can close.
Yes,
and
the
vote
paperwork just won't be
Gotcha.
finalized.
Perfect.
Yeah. So regarding the O&M
Yep.
component, that they had said that they wanted a site-specific one. So
Right.
I made that in your draft, in the draft conditions, a pre-construction condition, that you would need to submit a site-specific inspection log. That's what they had wanted to them for approval.
Sure.
So that was basically probably what your conversation with them.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes. Yeah. And my understanding with the bond is they just need to determine an amount that's appropriate. Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board? Not Ms. Pusa. Now that we know. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Being none, would anyone care to make a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with special conditions as discussed under the Wetlands Protection Act?
I'll make a motion that we close the meeting and issue the conditions that we discussed
And as drafted by Agent Markham.
and drafted by our agent.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. We also have a stormwater permit. Mr. Frederick, you had a question regarding paperwork.
Yeah, just, the draft stormwater permit had it listed as an attachment to the order of conditions, I think. Is that how we do it?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so, is there a motion to approve attachment C, a city stormwater ordinance permit as an attachment to the order of conditions as drafted by Agent Markham?
Pending the bond amount.
Pending the final bond amount from the engineering department.
Motion as discussed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So these will be ready no later than
Soon as
21
we-
days. But did you have a signature page for us tonight? So we can at least sign, and
Okay.
then the rest of the paperwork
So what's the bond?
Yep.
Mallory will be in touch about.
Great.
Yeah, so if you wanna pick it up, you can let me know and I'll just, you can be in touch, or
Okay.
otherwise I just put it in the mail.
Okay. Yes, I will let you know if I will be down here. It may be fastest to put it in the mail.
Okay, alright, great, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's right.
Yep.
Thought about that on Pascom Trust there before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know last time and Mike was like, how can you talk about that? Members, and I was like, oh, God. Yeah, you're right.
Well, the fact that you didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda. Request for extension from Williston Northampton School, Mass DEP file number 151286. Cross-country running trail improvements off Taft Avenue. I keep talking about expiration February 22nd, 2019. So Mallory, I'm assuming this was received 30, okay, excellent. So, Mr. Butch, could you note for minutes that this was received at least 30 days prior to date of expiration?
Mhm.
Thank you. Good
So,
evening.
yes, good evening. Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys and Chuck Tannen from Williston. So that, if you remember, the work on the actual course itself, the cross-country course, has been completed 100% off of Taft Avenue. The work that is left to be done is only monitoring the wetland replication area, which is off of Park Street near White Brook Middle School. So that wetland replication area was installed in the summer, and I provided a report to the commission. And then diligently, Williston watered, and then we had the fall.
Nature took over.
And then nature took over. So that it is flourishing perfectly. But we need to monitor it and take a look at it and see what it looks like in the spring. The requirement through the order of conditions is 1 year monitoring of the.
Is it 1 or 2 growing seasons?
One or two.
Two full
Two,
growing
I'm sorry,
seasons?
2.
Okay.
So that, so it would be July of 2019, would be 1 year.
Mhm.
And then July of 2020 would be the second year. So that's why we asked just for a 3-year extension,
Okay.
figuring it would be.
So that will be more than
Enough.
sufficient, I believe. I mean,
Right.
that's all we can do, up to 3 years.
Correct.
At
Correct.
one time, so.
Right.
um,
So,
Mallory, do you happen to have a copy of the you said there was a report in the summary?
yeah, so,
I thought- I
I gave.
recall, I just don't recall specifics.
On July 18th, there was a report, and then I did not, looking through my file, did not do one in the late fall. So that, I don't think it was a requirement because of a yearly, so I just didn't do another one, so.
I think you were forwarded it at the time.
You were.
Yeah,
We
because
were.
I went out to the site.
Yeah,
also.
right, Mallory and I went out and looked at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a copy of it if you'd
Could
like
I
to
just
see
take a
it.
quick look?
Sure.
You can, I'll give you your copy back. I
Yep,
just am
so this
curious.
is the report, after 2.8 inches of rain we had in July, which was the start of things.
No sign of growth at that point,
No,
but
because the work had just been done,
yeah, no,
finalized on the
not as a
13th of July.
criticism.
Yeah, so it's,
Just
you
an
know,
observation.
it was only 5 days old as far as the seeding. So,
Don't write on it.
so, you know, I would
Thanks.
anticipate,
Back tomorrow.
you know, probably, hopefully, April. You know, taking a look at it again,
Yep. Okay.
but definitely, in July, looking at it again, that'll be the first year growth.
Okay. All right, so the request before the commission is to issue a 3-year extension of the order of conditions for DEP file number 151286, extending it to February 22nd, 2022. A lot of twos.
February 2nd, 2022.
22nd, 2/22/2022.
That's a lot of twos. You
That's
got
what I'm saying.
It was on the original.
No.
Right?
Using up all the twos.
Motion to extend to issue a 3-year extension to February 22nd, 2022 for the Williston Northampton School cross-country running trail project as discussed.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Gonna
Okay.
second it, but then Jill, so.
Thank you.
That's another 2. All those 2s.
If you'd just like to sign it, but I can give it to you now if you want.
Sure, okay, and we'll wait for it, and then Jeff can get it recorded in the registry of deeds.
Is a recusal the same as an abstention for the purposes?
Oh,
No,
Okay.
well,
I think it's
she
slightly
recused
different.
before the vote. She didn't
Right.
abstain from the
The
vote. She
vote,
recused
right.
herself from the
Okay.
process. I'm gonna go with no. Do well.
Yes, you can get it recorded.
Just
Great.
for things.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, nice catch.
Two copies? Sweet.
All right. Whizzing through.
World record.
Is this one not over?
No.
It's 6.1.
That was a great meeting.
That was a great meeting.
Seems like such a long time.
It was such a
It
long
was a
time
long,
ago.
long time ago. We'll just wait for it.
How those Girl Scout cookie sales going?
They're going great. Got
And
a
left?
couple. Oh, yeah.
Should've brought some in, I would've bought some.
That might not be appropriate. Interest. I can direct you to several booths this weekend.
Yeah, sure.
They're everywhere.
But
Only after you approve.
Yeah,
then
right.
No.
my wife would be happy though when I came home.
We did have a gentleman walking by who came back. He got home, he was told he did not make the right choice. He didn't get anything the first time.
Well, I
Serves him
bought
right for opening his mouth.
a box.
Yeah.
I bought a box from you.
You bought a lot of boxes.
You didn't tell me that box I bought was the toffee one.
I didn't tell you that was gluten free?
No. I I thought I was eating cardboard with toffee pieces.
Well, thankfully there was toffee.
Buyer beware.
Caveat emptor.
So
Actually,
here's
all
the original.
cardboard now.
Okay, so.
They
And
were
then you
weapons
want
for
two
squirrels.
cardboard then?
Yeah,
Oh,
we-
They're happy.
does it make sound good?
No, they're I'm just kidding.
Appreciate it. Great, get to that conclusion.
That's right. Roll it in glue.
And we'll send a
That would be an
copy to
awesome
Mallory.
joke gift, like a
Yeah.
dip.
Yes.
For when you
Should I just drop
accidentally.
it off?
Yeah, just drop it off.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Mallory
can, you
put it
can,
to the file.
yeah, you can do it anytime the planning department is open, and if they're not open, we'll put it in our box
Put
upstairs.
that on my list of things
Okay.
that.
Very good, thanks.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next year.
Yes.
If not sooner.
Yeah.
3 years.
Thank you.
Somebody smells like cinnamon to me.
Be a good Christmas grab, I give
We're off gassing.
people.
It's Mike's coffee. Coffee.
Okay. We have no requests for certificates of compliance. Mallory, have any come in?
No.
Excellent. We have no emergency certifications. Have any come in?
No.
Even better. Enforcement actions. Bernard Gall, 37 South Street, EO 2013-001. At our last meeting, there was going to be some file review and follow-up with Mr. Gall's son Matthew regarding what, if any, outstanding actions at this location need to be resolved.
We're not there yet.
Not there? Okay.
So, next meeting,
To be
hopefully?
continued?
Yes.
Okay. Also for Mr. Gall, vicinity of Groveland Street, Florence Road, map 115, lot 2, and map 128, lot 64, Mass DEP, ACOP 000019558. This is in DEP's hands, and at the present time, the matter is in compliance. Autumn Properties LLC, rear 161 to 165 Northampton Street, EO 2016-001. Any, is that on the list of files to
Yes.
review? Okay. Saranac Westview Terrace, map 165, lot 47, EO 2018-001. This is on hold due to the season. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
St. Bridget's Cemetery, Everett Street, map 145, lot 37.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Safety belts.
so for this one, I would just wanted to go through a timeline with you,
Okay.
because we're in the winter time right now. And I was looking at your meeting schedule. So, following the process that I've been following and have followed in the past, basically I would begin by having the recipient attending the meeting for which it was up for ratification, the enforcement order, so that they could speak to you before it was ratified if they wanted to. So what I would do is I would send the order to them ahead of that meeting, and they would have the opportunity to attend it, basically. So I like to give a sufficient time to allow them to do that. And then at that meeting, they would be ordered to attend the next meeting after that, and usually that's when would nominate a consultant at that same meeting. I think that's exactly how we did it with the Cernax. So basically, then after that, they would follow, the next action that they would take is that they would have, they would do the delineation in the field. So, because there's a time of year associated with that, I kinda just wanted to talk to you about that in reference to your schedule and what your thoughts are.
Okay. Well,
Did you want a copy of the schedule to look at?
do you have one handy?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I understand this, the rapid fire, one meeting, next meeting, the next meeting.
Yeah.
So, given the nature of the property owner, it's not a single individual, it's
Mhm.
not a private residence. It might be a little, may or may not be challenging to identify a contact person, since the property owner's listed in
Yeah.
the city records as a school.
Mm-hmm.
They're listed as the,
Immaculate Conception School
and
at
then-
33
yeah.
Adams Street.
Right, yeah.
There must be someone who's in charge of the grounds and takes care of.
Right,
the
so it may
majority.
take,
Yeah.
so it may be worthwhile to, reach out to them to, you may need between now and March 11th to actually get a hold of a person, the right
Yeah.
person. And so that would actually put us in better position relative to our schedule and the seasonal schedule
Mm-hmm.
to move along in that more sequential manner. So do you think it's, and does the commission think it's reasonable to target March 11th for discussion of the enforcement order at our meeting with the responsible a responsible party present, with the nomination targeted for March 25th? And, I mean, realistically, you're not gonna get much of a delineation before the end of April, depending on conditions.
Right, I agree.
So maybe we try just to put numbers on things right now, March 11th, March 25th for nomination, delineation by either April 22nd or May 6th.
I had all of those ones that you have except for, it's either April 22nd or May for the delineation, that's the only one I
I'm just thinking a month in the early season might be a bit challenging.
Okay.
So I think I'd be comfortable with May 6th.
May 6th, okay.
How does anyone else?
I'm good with that.
Fine with me.
Okay.
And then your restoration plan, usually I had given about, I think I gave like at least 2 meetings before that was due.
So June 10th?
Yep, so June 10th, and then they also, we were gonna order O&M, so I know that's like another item, so I
That could be
wanted.
concurrent, that doesn't have anything to do with the
Yeah.
field work, so it could be a
Right.
restoration plan and O&M by then.
Yeah, it was just more work than, for a consultant or someone to do than I had asked in the past, so I didn't know. So you think that that's acceptable for a month? Okay.
I think realistically, I think the O&M plan has nothing to do with the field work or the restoration plan, so that could be
Right.
done independently of and commence in late March, so that's actually several months to get it together.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I'll give that back to Mallory, so she can see.
I think from what I had looked at was that it's still, when you look up St. Bridget's Cemetery, it comes up as Our Lady of the Valley Parish, 33 Adams Street, and then it
Okay.
has that the Our Lady of the Valley Parish operates 2 Catholic cemeteries in Easthampton, St. Bridget's Cemetery, the address, and then it has a contact person.
Okay, that's a great place to start.
So, I think one other question was, ordinarily I would have any immediate actions. I don't know what immediate actions we could have to try to prevent any further accumulation by maintenance folks during the spring.
Cease and desist all dumping of materials in
Yeah.
adjacent wetland resource areas.
Right, I didn't know if I guess I was kind of thinking of some sort of temporary thing to keep folks from doing that, but I don't really know that there would be. Unless they were gonna put like a temporary signage or something, but that could just end up in the wetland also.
Well, the focus seems to be their staff, so
Well,
it
they're,
shouldn't be
they're
that
two things,
difficult to
like, they're the
communicate.
flower pots and stuff, so.
Yeah.
And other
Oh,
things, so that might
yeah.
not be their stuff.
That's easier to clean up though than the piles of dirt.
True.
I'm not
Yeah.
as concerned about that.
I also don't really know what they'd have for, if they have like some if they have the same staff all the time, or if they have certain laborers that are just kind of like in and out when they need them, especially for like funerals and things like that. So I don't know. That was my only thought, but we could like potentially broach that at a later time. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly in there. Okay.
Well, if you talk to somebody, find out.
Yeah.
what
Okay.
they think.
All right, so you'll have that,
So March
March 11th is the meeting we're targeting, so really it needs to be,
Usually I would issue it before that.
to them, it would need to be at least, I would aim for, hopefully you can do it at least a week before,
Yeah.
if not more. You know, the more notice, the
Right.
better. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to send it out, I would say I would send it out by your meeting date on Monday or earlier,
Okay.
on Monday the 25th.
That
February.
works. That works. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, open space updates, Echovale West Orchard area improvements. Were you able to get through to Chris Politan or Andrew Morrison?
So I emailed Chris Politan, but he never responded. I did get a number for him. I can try calling him, or I can try to go back to Andrew.
I would email both of them.
Okay. And the email that I got for Chris Politan was not at Land Stewardship. It was like a Gmail account. If anybody else has any additional contact for him, I couldn't find his Land Stewardship email.
I can look for him at the MACC conference.
I think I have contact.
I'd have to go
information.
back in to see what I have for contact information for him. It's been
Okay.
a while.
I had a cell phone number at one point, but I don't know if I still have it.
Okay.
So we're going on how long since you were last able to contact?
I haven't been able to get them on the phone like ever, basically. I've gotten them on the phone like a couple times, and that was pretty much it.
When did you last receive a response to an email?
They were responding by email, but they wanted to discuss basically what we were doing. I can't get into my email right now for some reason. They wanted to discuss what we were doing moving forward just over email, and I was concerned about that because I thought that there might be more than one option than what they were proposing, and I kind of just wanted to talk it through with them. And it's basically not been possible to get a hold of Andrew. And Andrew, last year was a similar thing when I was trying to get in touch with him about things over the phone, and he was like, I work part-time, so I'm just not always available. And then it became exacerbated by the fact that I also only work part-time, so but it's been an ongoing problem over the last year since I started working here.
Does anyone else have any suggestions?
Nope.
Just hunt them down, I guess.
Okay.
Let's see what I have for contact information.
All right. All right. It's frustrating. Compliance updates, active projects, open permits. Ready?
We're ready.
Pleasant Street Mills, Mass DEP file number 151273. What is our new date? Oh, they only continued it to December of 2019?
Yes.
Okay, extended to December 20th, 2019. Any updates?
Nope, I have sent out an inquiry email to Jeff about recording it, but I haven't heard
Okay.
back about that.
All right, Lathrop Community, DEP file number 151283, invasive plant management.
No.
Okay. Williston Northampton Trails, cross country running trails has been extended to 2022 as of the date of this meeting. for monitoring of the wetland replacement area. Assume there are no other updates?
No.
City of Easthampton, DEP file number 151288, Nashwander Pond Aquatic Veg Management, no updates?
No.
Loven Properties, DEP file number 151287.
Don't see any activity.
Okay. Riverside Industries, 151290, Quad Street Bridge Replacement.
Yeah, this one's still outstanding.
What part's outstanding?
They should be applying for a COC. I have just not followed up with them about it yet.
Okay. So you're gonna follow up with them?
Yeah, I was looking for the updated contact information for them, for that they gave me during the pre-construction condition. The bridge was done, the contractor did it as a, donation to Riverside, so they kind of have abandoned the project at this point.
Well, it's Riverside's permit to close it. Perhaps you can let them know that it can be a relatively straightforward process.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next item, James LeGrand, DEP file number 151291, replacing existing retaining wall.
I have not heard anything.
Can you remind me, did he record that? Do we know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I will look into that.
Okay.
I think he did. I'm not certain.
And getting his and Tracy J. Cott's confused because they're so close to each other.
Yeah.
She definitely did.
And she closed it out,
Mm-hmm.
so.
I can't remember because he got his permit and then he kind of just didn't. I had never heard from him about any of the work, but he might have recorded it.
We was waiting for low water and then we never really got that this year. So he probably is still waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
It
imagine.
shouldn't be that funny. That's not funny. Okay, City of Easthampton, DEP file number 151268, maintenance dredging, White Brook, Broadbrook.
No.
Holistic Industries, 151296.
Yeah, so I have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for the 14th, so this Thursday at, I believe, 2 o'clock.
Is that on site?
Yes, and so Mark Reed is still working on that project. My understanding is that he's going to be the environmental monitor, but I haven't had that in writing. And then I did remind them of all of the pre-construction conditions contained in their order, and I had signed off on their building permit with the condition that they follow all of the conditions in the order.
Well, if they don't follow all the conditions in the order, they're in violation of the order and can issue a cease and desist.
So they've also contacted the city engineers, so that there should be an engineer, it's probably Diane that's gonna, I believe is coming to, at least Diane on Thursday. So they're, so far, so good.
Okay, excellent. All right, One Industrial Lofts LLC. No. No updates. One Industrial Lofts LLC, track 2?
No.
Do we know if either of those has been recorded?
I haven't received notification of that.
Okay.
They might have been waiting till they closed out their MIPA, which I'm not sure what's going on with that at that point.
That's fine.
Although it's not really.
Even if they need to modify those permits, they need to be recorded in order to be modified because they're not valid until they're
Yeah,
recorded.
I don't know what they.
So it's up to them. If they don't need them recorded because they're not doing work yet,
Yeah.
it's on them. All right, Easthampton Park Solar 1 LLC, DEP file number 151293, large scale solar project 232 Park Street.
I haven't heard anything on this one either.
So it does not appear that it's been recorded yet?
Nope.
Okay. All right, general business. We already approved our meeting minutes while you were.
Okay.
While you were waiting for the slow copier, so.
Do you have a copy of them?
I do what Julie wrote on it.
Sorry.
But you have a PDF of it.
Yeah, I printed out a copy, but there,
Okay.
that might have been like the old.
There was only one. I only sent one PDF of it.
today.
Oh, not the draft
Oh,
that Jay
draft,
sent
okay.
out. I sent a
Okay.
PDF
Today,
today.
and
Which
there's
is
no
cleaned up.
there's no edits on that, that's what.
To the PDF? No.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so you can print that. Just ready for recycling. All right, has there been any correspondence or agent updates to share?
None that I can think of.
Okay,
Don't we have to do the Westview Terrace thing?
what do you mean? Yes, that comes next.
Oh, it comes next?
Will it come next?
Mhm.
The commission is in receipt of a notice of intent, Mass DEP file number 151297, filed by Easthampton Park Solar 1 LLC for solar project at Westview Terrace, map 165, lot 47, filed on April 10th, 2018, identified as date of filing by Mass DEP. Has the applicant, as of yet, notified the public through a newspaper ad and/or notified abutters to your knowledge?
No.
No action. Is there any other business to discuss?
Yes, actually, well, there was one thing that I forgot and I just remembered to say.
Mhm.
So, Deborah had, you had gone to fill out an appointment request. And then basically through that action, I had found out that, I believe, is it Deanna?
Okay,
That Deanna had actually, filled out
an appointment
an
request.
appointment request like a
Okay.
week earlier. I think
Okay.
on the January 23rd, was
Okay.
the date of it, and that she is being appointed. Is like they already have the process moving for her to be appointed, so she should be appointed by your next meeting.
Okay, do we have an option for an associate member?
So when I was consulting the MACC
Mm-hmm.
handbook about associate members,
Mhm.
it's, have you had associate members on this board before?
Not in my tenure.
Okay. So it basically explains that it requires some sort of like legal process in order to establish a board that has associate members.
Okay.
You could well, actually, I think I'm confusing the difference between voting alternates and associate members. You could have like associate members that aren't really members of the board, but to have someone who can be a voting alternate is illegal.
Okay, so what is the legal, what does that entail?
I am preliminary in my research on it. It's basically, at this point, it may require some sort of action by the city council.
Okay.
So,
I could just quit and,
No? Sorry, Deborah.
Associate members, I think, can do everything but vote, correct? Because South Hadley has that system.
I can go grab the,
Would
well,
you?
yes.
That would be good.
And I can just read what I said. So, there's one type of member that's like that can actually vote, and the other associate members can do things, but they're not really a real appointed member of the board, basically. So it's like using volunteer labor in a different way.
Okay.
Supposed to be a whole different thing, or
Yeah.
okay.
We've never
Two of
had,
us at the same
we've never had a
time.
surplus of commission members.
yeah, usually a deficit.
We usually run a deficit.
Need a bigger table.
What, there's a limit and we're at it?
Yes, yep, 7.
So actually, what's the name of the person who has,
Deanna, D-E-A-N,
I have DEA-NNA,
that works from the previous, okay, yes.
what's her last
use that.
name? Do we have a last name?
Metiver, M-E-T-I-V-I-E-R, I believe.
METEVI.
Are we at 6 people?
I-V-I-E-R, yes, so having 2 more would push us to 8.
Oh, 2 more. So, okay, so this is a new,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't understand that was a separate person.
Was this the person that came,
Yeah,
shows up at the
last-
upstairs meetings?
He's carrying the social media all the time.
Those are mine.
There's headphones on the house.
Yeah.
That's what the kids in my house do too, unless they're watching something particularly annoying, in which case they usually take the
Take it
headphones
off
off.
and turn it way up.
Does it help if you hold them onto your ears when other people are talking?
No, they usually start shouting at you when they need to start just talking to you because they can't hear.
Okay.
Kids know like this.
So this is the older one, it's from 2006, but it should be the
I
same.
don't think that would have changed much if at all.
So there's, voting, voting alternates, so because there's the Conservation Commission Act only allows 3 to 7 voting members, that giving alternates the right to vote is only possible through charter provision or a special act of the legislature. A few communities have established volunteer voting alternates, and it has about
Sounds complicated.
12. Has about 12 cities in Massachusetts that have done it. And then the associate members, it's like an unofficial, non-voting associate member. So I don't know that you can be actually appointed. I think it's just like an unofficial.
Would that then put that person in a better position to fill a vacated seat?
Yeah.
If the event should arise, and is that, and participate in the discussions, just as even as a more informed, active member of the public?
I mean, I would think so. They bring up a couple things. I've never been on work for a commission that has had associate members, so my personal experience with it is
I feel
zero.
like I feel like Apple has like 20 people at the table.
Entire
There's
town.
definitely
It's not an
has had
association.
I've
associates
seen anything like
members.
that in my entire life.
So it's basically like for the most part, they can't be counted towards the vote or the quorum, obviously, and then their functions and duties are very limited. But sometimes they mentioned about how it could be like, you can't deliberate on permit matters. They're just interested members of the public volunteering to help the commission, and they have a right to participate in it just as anyone else does. It says in some communities that they can appoint a non-voting associate member through authority specified in charter or bylaw ordinance. So if you don't have that, then, but that might be also something to consider if you were gonna consider bylaw.
Something we've expressed interest in the past, and
Many times over the past 12 years, we've said maybe we should have a bylaw or ordinance.
then,
Doesn't work.
you know,
We expressed our need for that at the MVP workshop and the need for support in getting it done.
was that last Thursday?
Yeah.
No, yes.
Thursday? Sometime last week. I think it was Thursday. That sounds good.
I couldn't go. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, theoretically, the more members we have and the more people helping out, the more we can kind of divide and conquer almost.
Yeah, I mean, I would look into see if we could get I would rather have, I mean, in the meantime, I don't mind the lack of appointment, but I think it might be better to have it be an appointed non-voting member, because then when a vacancy does come up for a voting position, it's very easy to say, this person has been here and they've been doing this, and it prevents someone else. So, I think that gives them, if they're gonna be, if someone's gonna be an associate member and invest that energy, I think that they deserve to be appointed,
Yeah.
so.
Is that something you would be interested in Mallory pursuing on? Okay. So now that means you have to talk to.
The mayor's office, probably.
Okay.
The other question I wanted to ask you, is that as it relates to a bylaw, obviously, like, doing a bylaw is a huge undertaking. Would you be interested in starting off with a bylaw that is not, doesn't have all the preamble, all the definitions, but, like, leans heavily on the existing state regulations and just has the key.
Small changes to
Right,
it.
yeah, including like fees and
Mhm.
if you wanted to do a no work zone, associate members, like things like that, so,
Mhm.
Cause I also think that when the public sees a, very long bylaw, they kind of, that can feel overwhelming at first too, and it sometimes can be nice to amend rather
Mhm.
than try to do a perfect bylaw all
Sure.
at once.
I'd be
That
okay
makes
with that.
sense, that makes sense to me.
In theory, as soon as we start talking about it, though, it's gonna get complicated, and it's what happens every time.
Yeah, I mean, I have a limited list of like things that like would, that are prioritized, maybe like 5 to 10 things that I would like want
Mhm.
over everything else.
Has anyone
Um,
shared with you our previous attempts?
Or did you see them in the files?
Yeah, Jess Allen gave me an old, or a draft, kind of like had been a draft bylaw, but it seemed to need a lot of work and was very like laden with a lot of, I feel like there can be so many things to debate with all of that, especially, it just can get really bogged down by trying to make decisions about like what you specifically wanna have jurisdiction over, if you're gonna extend that. So,
Is there a way to convene like a working group to meet separately or something? Because we found
What
that
if you put out your 10 points that you're,
I could just tell
Just
you
throw
what they
those out.
are.
Yeah.
what happened before is we would have a bylaw discussion at the end of our agenda for
Forever.
and we would be so
It's too big a
exhausted
discussion
by
for
the
the
time we
end
got
of a
there.
meeting.
Yeah.
We would just not talk about it for months and months and months and months at a time until we just said forget about it and drop it from the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
So
what
what
if,
are-
what
what
if you
are
just
your
send out
key-
a list of what the things you have as,
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I'll just tell you the ones I had. I mean, I would establish like a no work zone for new construction, obviously redevelopment. You can't. It's more difficult, or so it would be like undisturbed areas. So I would do like a setback. I didn't know, obviously that's subject to interpretation about what works. I know some commissions do 50, some do 30. I think 30 is a little bit more reasonable for buffer zone. And then fees for,
Separate fee schedule?
yes, separate fee schedule. And then I have with their riverfront regulations, I haven't like fully explored this idea, but basically only a part of a river is protected some of the time. And like you could have a river that only reaches, there's a single channel, if you're talking about the single channel, and it only gets to be called have riverfront area. A good example is the river that runs on the Cernak parcel, that only at a certain point does it begin to have a watershed size great enough to be called a river. So like in terms of like establishing greater protections along a single channel that's a single, like in terms of stream order, for the length of that single channel, could like provide greater watershed protection.
So basically increase riparian protections on intermittent streams?
No, on a stream that eventually becomes a river, that meets, like, would meet the, as long as
On
the
upgrading
Extending the
reaches?
riverfront
right,
area upstream.
yeah, upstream, but, that, like, you would have to figure out, if like there was two smaller order streams that combined, and like, at that point, it would become the river channel, so you would have to, like, do a little stream order speak in there. Those are the, would be like my top 3, and then extending wildlife habitat protections to buffer zone, or like establishing that buffer zone is wildlife habitat. And then we could do, I like alternate I like the associate members. I might have had one other one that a couple other ones that I just don't.
Because one that always comes to my mind is isolated wetlands.
Yes. So increase the threshold for isolated wetlands, basically?
Let there be one.
Yeah,
There's no, currently we have no jurisdiction unless it's
I think it's 5,000 square feet. You do
No.
have, oh wait, no, that's the.
Wetlands
thinking
Protection Act, quarter acre foot
Quarter
to
acre foot.
average depth of 6 inches or
Yeah.
greater for ILSF, but
But nothing else counts.
yeah.
Yeah, I have obviously a little bit limited experience with that one, I don't.
I think another potential thing to consider is potentially reducing the threshold for ILSF.
Okay.
So the threshold for ILSF under the Wetlands Protection Act is quarter acre
Oh.
foot to an average depth of 6 inches or greater,
Mm-hmm,
which is a lot of water.
mm-hmm.
And so basically, you can, if it doesn't meet that volume threshold and that depth threshold, then it's non-jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Mm-hmm.
And you can fill it in
Mm-hmm.
without, unless it's IVW and it gets captured under 401 and 404,
Mhm.
but it doesn't necessarily meet, if it doesn't meet that either, then you've just displaced a whole lot of water to the detriment of the surrounding area potentially.
Yep.
And it can also mean a lot of vernal pools aren't protected.
I think our draft bylaw
We
had
talked about that.
all of this stuff in it, except for associate members.
Yeah.
What it really just needed was to have somebody like go through it.
A single
and
person.
Single person, go through it, make it good, and then bring it to a meeting, or, hand it out, people mark it up, have it come back,
Mhm.
and then it would be done, I think that's really
I
all
would go back and look at it.
needed.
It just seemed to have a lot of potential issues with definitions and like things like that, so those, like, I feel like if you lean heavily on existing definitions, like even if I was to do a fee schedule, I could do a fee schedule that's based off of the categories that DEP
I think there
already
should be
has.
parity in the,
Right.
there should be absolute parity, because otherwise you're trying to
Invent
interpret
new-
what was intended. Whereas if it's just, you have your Wetlands Protection Act category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, E, A,
Right.
B, C, D, E, you can have the parallel.
Right, so if it was.
And you could also
yeah.
use it as an opportunity to,
What type of bylaws are we talking about?
a wetlands protection bylaw.
What's an
Or
ordinance, really?
Local, well, it would be an
For-
ordinance
yeah.
for Easthampton.
Specific to Easthampton?
Yeah, so basically it would increase, you can have equal or more stringent protections than the state Wetlands
Oh.
Protection Act,
And we had one, but it was repealed in the early 90s.
Repealed by?
the city. I think there were some overstepping of bounds.
It was converted from a bylaw to an ordinance when the town incorporated as a city, and then
And shortly
repealed like a year later.
I think we also have penalty fees in there, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's the other thing.
But then, I guess the other, and I think what was also, went along with those was, potentially a small fee for an RDA or certificate of compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that those are the things that warrant greater discussion, is about exactly how you would wanna do fees, but that if you were gonna do an NOI, if you were gonna do your own fees for NOI on top of what they have, then I would use the exact mirror image of,
I think it's just clearer.
yeah. And then you don't have to get into the business of having all that defining what anything is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll take another look at what I have. Hopefully it's the same thing. Unless you have something that you want to just send to me to make sure that I'm looking at the right document.
Yep.
Is the issue that it's too hard to implement, or if we push back on implementation? Or is it difficulty finalizing?
I think that sometimes when people write up an ordinance or a bylaw, they're kind of like writing a large piece of new like legislation for their community, and so they write it like a, you know, in that way that can be very time consuming to do, and they try to put everything in it. So we were talking about going through the existing one and also keeping it simple, and having it mirror state law, but just additional items. So tying it back in so that it's less time consuming. So bylaws can just get bogged down, I guess.
Yeah, and there was discussion too about whether the extent to which we would have an ordinance and then separate regulations and what would go in each. Would we give ourselves the responsibility and privilege of writing regulations that did things like establish the fees and not put that in the ordinance itself, you know? So that at meetings we could update certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all stuff we were hashing through, and it made it more complicated.
Yeah.
But it would seem goofy in 100 years if we were charging people the equivalent of like $1.50 for a permit or whatever.
Well, I think that's the other thing even that I would say is that I would probably do, like, if I were doing additional fee, to do it as a percentage of what the state does, so that in the event that they update their fees, that we could it would automatically update ours, and we wouldn't even have to do anything, unless you wanted complete control over what you want, you know.
So I think where we went with, or where my mind goes with that is, if it somehow becomes an activity that is only subject to protection under the bylaw and not the act,
Right.
then would that, I mean, I guess you could still just figure out what the activity is and apply that fee, and it would only be 10% of the Wetlands Protection Act filing fee, or whatever percentage.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not you have activities that would be more so, I mean.
But there are definitely ways to do what you were saying, where you set up
I mean, you could just say
two
you're going to
documents, one that
establish a fee
references,
schedule.
right,
And then the fee schedule could be updated as needed.
and it's not subject to
Yeah.
city council
And Stuart,
approval every time.
Stuart was opposed to more fees unless we were providing an additional service to the public.
No, we
So
haven't
that's
either.
what we had to, that was part of the justification and the stalling point a long time ago.
Well, right now
So
you're
it
you're
was-
paying,
Council
like,
was-
you're
Right.
paying more than the
City
city's
planner
paying
prior
for me
to
for this
Jeff
year,
Salon.
so,
Buckley?
Beckley, yep,
Exactly.
is in Ware now. Ware?
yeah, and
Where?
you could do,
Where's Stuart?
Never gets old.
Every time.
I would do as much as you can in the, as the ordinance, but then, like, if you wanna do the fee schedule or things like that you're gonna update regularly separate, then, yeah. But I think you might get more pushback on things that aren't in the bylaw itself. They're not there.
What about like working sessions, not after a meeting, but,
A whole separate day.
yeah.
Well, the stormwater ordinance development was like just meetings with somebody from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, the planner, the city engineer at the time, me, myself representing the Conservation Commission, someone representing the planning board, and maybe someone representing the mayor's office, I don't remember, and then that was just it. It was just an informal, non-commission, internal city meeting, so it wasn't.
Who like wrote that? Was Pioneer Valley Planning
The
Commission
stormwater
paid to
ordinance?
write that? Yeah.
They facilitated the process and provided the template document and examples.
So I'm
of
gonna
what the
guess that they're
committees
probably
had.
paid then.
Yeah, probably, or,
Or it may have been like part of a larger effort.
well, don't they give this, or like the city pays fees annually and they,
They have a certain amount of like certain things that they can get.
right, yeah, exactly, so I don't know if it was something like that. But that's how that worked.
Buddy, see you soon.
Well,
But it would certainly make the process go a lot easier if this was done in that context with like, we nominate one person to go and, participate or whatever. We nominate an official ordinance person. Julie, what was that?
I second that motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
then,
would do it.
All right, done.
yeah,
It looks like I already motioned to adjourn.
Regretfully.
oh, yeah.
I have something else to bring up.
Oh.
Go for
I emailed Mallory, I don't know if you've seen it. It was
Oh,
brought to my
Fort Hill.
attention that there may be a possible violation going on in the vicinity of emanating from Fort Hill Brewery.
Okay.
Tom, what's his last name, Lautzenheiser, with Mass Audubon, mentioned that there's a BMX track there, and it seems to be eroding a lot of sediment that is going down the slope, down the road, and into the crossing there, which I think is the Manhan.
On their property?
Well, it's, from what he described, it's coming off of their property, down the road, and
Down
then into
Fort
the,
Hill
down
Road
Fort Hill
proper?
Road,
Right, okay.
and into the,
Wetland there.
yeah, at the crossing. So I haven't been over to take a look. I mean, I drove past it, but I didn't actually stop and.
So it's a BMX,
You can't miss it. There's a lot of hills and uncovered
Like a pump
slopes.
track.
Is
It's
it
larger than a
created?
pump track.
Oh, okay.
It's
created
pretty
course?
substantial. Created course.
Wow. okay.
That's right at the top of the hill. If you're just driving down the road, you'll see it. It's like
Wow.
all of these big piles of dirt.
it's part of the brewery.
It's on the brewery property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has it been there, so, new
That's-
or?
I don't know.
Well, that's been
I don't. It's
new
gotta
this
be
year because
relatively new,
I
but
don't remember seeing it.
I don't know exactly when.
I was looking at aerials of that.
And it is
site
kind of
around
right
that
at the
area.
top of the tree line there, so it's not surprising that it would flow down the slope if there's.
Okay.
Can you see it from East Street?
No,
No, it's too far, I bet.
too far down.
Okay.
Awesome.
Everything
Give me something to do. Much to do.
Anything else? Thanks, Julie.
I better close before I bleed all over Jason's computer here.
Motion to adjourn and sanitize.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Why are you bleeding on the
Thank
computer?
you.